What's up, Fantasy Champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now, with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network.
Dude, don't hear you.
You can hear me now.
There you go.
Well, we're back with another edition of the Turn 2 podcast here on Spotlight Sports Network. Here with me, as always, my partner in crime, Jeff Hammond, a.k.a. Hammer in Hammer's House. And, of course, your one and only Jake the Snake from the Snake Sports Talk Show. We're glad to be here with you guys. Well, Hammer, we got a lot to talk about here from tonight. And, of course, what we may be looking at as the season continues to get further and further to starting at opening day soon. But you must be happy as all hell right now because, I mean, it was obvious. Jacob deGrom was clearly going to be the starter for the opening day for the New York Mets.
Well, it's kind of a given.
Yeah, I mean, it was clear.
Two-time Cy Young Award winner. Dude's just been a beast these last couple of years. He is our ace, and hopefully he'll be our ace for a very, 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 very long time to come.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely hope they keep him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's the heart and soul of this Mets rotation and even for this organization. So, I mean, you think about it down, over the years. I mean, you think about Doc Gooden, who's been one of the biggest aces down the stretch. I mean, there were a bunch of other good arms, Tom Seaver. So, if Jacob deGrom, if he keeps this up and at the same time too, stays healthy, stays consistent, we could definitely see something happen here, down the road. But it's a lot to talk about here from tonight. And of course, we still got some spring training matchups still currently going on as we speak as well. But we definitely want to dig down deep into it. But looking at it from last year, even on the shortened season in 2020, but the surprising team that was interesting to watch, and even with the guys on the lineup, was the San Francisco Giants. I mean, we know the successes that they've had over the years, but it seemed like in the last couple seasons, they were kind of taking a step back, maybe notes of injury, maybe at the same time, just departures of different players coming in and out. But there are some promising futures like Mike Yastrzemski, and even surprisingly, breakout star Donovan Solano. This was a guy that was just focusing on just being, the everyday second baseman for the San Francisco Giants, and was even a guy that broke out with the amount of hits, his average, and the amount of runs he was driving in. Are we kind of seeing somewhat of an upwards trend when it comes to the Giants going into next season?
It's really hard to tell. They're not one of the teams over the last, like you said, probably 2-3 years. They weren't one of those teams in the NL West that was talked about much often. You would kind of look at them as a bottom of the barrel team alongside the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I'm not too sure at the moment. I'm not sure what their identity is. I'm not sure what they're trying to do moving forward right now.
Well, we know they're definitely a team that acquires misfits from left and right on every organization. And we know for a given fact that they turn around very easily. I mean, Donovan Solano was an absolute breakout star for the Giants last season, a guy that worked on his batting and his timing, and the average and the numbers, it proved itself. We know it was a shortened season all in all, but watching how Solano really just transformed his offense and at the same time was really working to be just just all in all just a serviceable type of player that was willing to do anything to you know at the same time really putting up runs, really finding ways to getting wins for the Giants in a short season. But even so, I mean, this is also a team that was without Buster Posey all last season. And now Posey's back, and I think this is kind of the better looking Buster Posey we've seen, and this is a guy who was excited to come back and took a lot of kind of a refresh type of moment for him after last season. But if they get things going with him and with a bunch of real good guys, Brandon Crawford and all them, they could be somebody sneaky in the National League that nobody talks about, but they'll find their ways in somehow, some way, if you look back at it.
We're playing a full season this year, folks. So let's see at least the first quarter of the games that they have and see how they look and how they produce and see who's the main guy on the team we're going to be looking at and talking about throughout the season.
Yeah, because also remember too, I mean, these are guys even in their rotation. I don't even know is Johnny Cueto healthy? Like, because I'm like, you got Johnny Cueto, you got Jeff Samardzija, you have a couple of arms left and right here, and then of course Rodriguez. But it'll be interesting to see how San Francisco really favors us out, because it's now turning into one of those NL West dominant teams where it's going to be either San Diego or the Dodgers really just taking it over in the West. But the Giants pull something together here. I don't know. I mean, like I said, this could be a low under the radar type team nobody talks about, but still finds a way to punch their ticket into the postseason. We'll just see how the season really pans out from there.
I'm looking at a projected lineup for them right now, and I'm also looking at like a projected the projected standings for them this coming season. Mm-hmm. They're going to be a below 500 team.
Yeah.
And again, this is projections, but you know what? I might agree with a lot of this stuff. They're predicting the record to be 75-87, and that's going to be fourth place in the division. And right below them would be the Colorado Rockies, and right above them is going to be the Diamondbacks, which I'm a little surprised by. But projected lineup, you have Tommy La Stella, Mike Yastrzemski, Donovan Solano, Alex Dickerson, Buster Posey, Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford, and Mauricio Dubon. The starters, you have Kevin Gossman. Cueto seems to be good right now. They have him second in the rotation. Anthony
Desclafani. Yeah, Anthony Desclafani.
Alex Wood and Aaron Sanchez. But there's a little report now on Cueto. He was charged with 6 earned runs over 2 1/3 total innings. This was last night against the Rangers. It was a mess of an outing for Cueto, who escaped the bases loaded jam in the top of the first inning, but promptly locked them up again. In the top of the third, Giants manager Gabe Kapler turned to the bullpen at that point, but Cueto back out for a fourth, and he went and loaded them up for a third time. I forget that me and him are actually the same age. Like, shit.
You know, it's interesting. I never even thought Aaron Sanchez was even on that rotation. You didn't even hear much of Aaron Sanchez since, the move from Toronto to Houston. It's like there really was not much for him to really kind of talk about at that point. So I really thought that was interesting, the fact that he is a part of this roster. But, you look at a couple of real good arms, around. Jake McGee, I'm really surprised that they even have him in the middle of the bullpen as well, because Jake McGee, I mean, he does have a pretty good resume. A guy that comes out of a Tampa Bay organization, bounced around from the Dodgers and a couple of other places, but to find him here. And then Matt Whistler, Atlanta tried their absolute best with Whistler a couple times, And then at the same time, I thought that's interesting. Alex Wood, of all players, I was very surprised he even, made it into this rotation. But again, this is actually going to be quite interesting. And the guys that, and of course, one that's a former Met, and I'm sure you love hearing his name, but Wilmer Flores, that I still think back to that initial trade that never happened. I really think, oh my God, you have to ask yourself, I have to ask you, but would that have really panned out well for the Mets if they really acquired Carlos Gomez that year? Like, I said no, because knowing Gomez,
Right.
he's a hothead, dude.
Yeah,
I don't think that.
I didn't think it was gonna work out, but like just how everything played out for him during a game, and I remember I was watching that game, and that was just totally heartbreaking to see a kid go through something like that. Like, you came up through a farm system. I'm not gonna say specifically like, oh, you came through the Mets farm system. So you came up through a farm system. They obviously saw the talent in you, and you made it to the show. And then all of a sudden, those reports are swirling around, and then you're in the middle of a game, and you're being told that there were reports that you were being traded, and you come out of the dugout, and you're standing out there in tears. Like, that was so messed up.
That was the most messed up thing like ever. I was just
where's
like,
Key? That's not how you treat people.
That is really not how you treat people. And to watch it and to watch that nationally televised,
Yeah.
you have to really feel super embarrassed for yourself, because I'm like, that's not right. That's not right for a Mets franchise to even just do that to somebody and just be like, oh, by the way, you're not traded. So I embarrassed myself on national television for no apparent reason. Like, I don't know where you go from there. I don't know where you go from there.
Well, honestly, if I was in that situation, especially if it was like, you know what, if it was the Mets, like, say I had the opportunity to play for the Mets, I came up through their farm system and everything, I made it to the show, and this is my home. Like, I grew up in New York and everything, and this is like where I dreamed to play my entire career. And I'm being told that I'm being traded. I probably would have reacted the same exact way. And I don't care if there was a camera on me or not. I would have reacted the same exact way.
Right. Oh my Lord. I mean, I totally would react the same exact way. Not gonna lie. I mean, it is what it is, I guess at this point, but no, I totally would have reacted the same exact way. But looking at this, moving forward here, but we're looking at, obviously, you have the spring training standings and everything else. But one standing I really like, one division I really would like to get into is obviously the American League West. I don't really know who's really going to be atop the AL West, because this is quite fascinating to me personally. The fact that, you have the teams like the A's, the Astros, the Rangers, the Angels, and then of course the Seattle Mariners. I mean, it's clear that the Mariners are going to be last in this division. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I don't know what direction this team is going at all, because it just kind of seems like outside of Kyle Lewis and outside of a couple of guys, they just don't know how to figure this out. Look, we can laugh at Baltimore and Miami for all we care. Like, we could laugh at them for so long. Seattle, it's like, what really hit them? The fact that, they're talking about these rumor reports with Russell Wilson for the Seahawks, the potential comeback of the Supersonics, if that comes down the road, waiting for the franchise of the Seattle Kraken to come around. And then, oh my God. And now it's like the Mariners, what the hell are they doing? Like, I don't know what's the plan here for them, but I just see them being last in the American League West, because this is a team that was overhyped, a team that was way too overrated, and they never figured out the problems. They never did. And when they tried to, it was like kind of little too late. So you're relying on Kyle Lewis and or Mitch Haniger to really save your problems. Like, that's not how this works.
I see them getting run out of Seattle. If these other sports teams, you know what, minus the Seahawks, 'cause they've been a really good franchise over the last decade or so. But when the expansion team, the Kraken, come and finally start playing in the NHL, if they look as good as the Las Vegas Golden Knights did when they first played in their inaugural season, if in fact, the Seattle Supersonics come back and they start looking really, really good, Seattle Mariners are going to get run the hell out of Seattle. They may just have to move them up to Alaska or something to play baseball.
Either that or they may be the team that might be relocating to Las Vegas, maybe. I mean, that could be a potentiality, but it's interesting, though. And then the other team that I really would look at, too, I mean, fourth in this division has to be the Texas Rangers. This is a team that we know that this rotation, it's questionable for me, but I know what I'm getting out of their lineups. I mean, for one, I know I'm going to get a healthy Joey Gallo, who really made some huge improvements as far as his plate discipline, because watching how he stood, I mean, the first couple seasons I seen him play, it just kind of seemed like he was all over the place. It just seemed like he really was not in rhythm with the strike zone, and not to mention really pushing to just find offense somewhere. But I know what I'm going to get with his production now that he started to slow things down and he's really like staying on top of just pitch location. There are at least a couple of young bats, but it will be interesting to see without Elvis Andrus in the middle of this mix, because as the guy that usually would start in this lineup or be number 2, it'll be interesting to see how that works without him. But I just think with this team, there's still a few real rebuilds that has to happen. I mean, they are in a new ballpark in Globe Life Field. But I think that this will be a team that really needs to figure out their rotation and their bullpen down the stretch.
I wholeheartedly agree. And like you said, Andrus is gone. Like, that dude was the heart of the lineup. And you take that out, who's replacing that now?
Yeah.
So this is going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. Like, honestly, and I don't really follow. I don't follow the West Coast baseball as much. Like, there's certain teams I'll watch here and there. Texas was never one of them, but I'm curious. I'm like slightly intrigued to see what the new ballpark looks like, though.
Well, the new ballpark, I mean, we watched the World Series in that new ballpark and everything else, and I'm interested and curious to see. I mean, we only got limited amount of fans last year in the World Series. It seemed like it's a promising ballpark indeed. But at the same time, like, this is a team since once they started to adjust things from 2010, when we had Ian Kinsler, Michael Young, Josh Hamilton, Nelson Cruz, and a bunch of real good stars. Like, this is a team that now is starting to take a different focus. So I was really intrigued and really interested to see how this will work, because Rougned Odor is a good player, and so is Joey Gallo and a couple of others, but I'm not sure. It will be very interesting to see what Texas does moving forward, but rotation, bullpen has to be the help. Otherwise, they will not be competitive in this division, let alone the rest of the American League.
I still think Odor's a punk. I don't give a shit. Little stunt with Joey Bats, dude's a punk.
Oh man, and we all thought Joey Bats had a little bit of something in him that time. I was just like, oh man,
cleaned his clock.
God, the most memorable moment in baseball, where you just see that several times in slow-mo. Stop it by one, like, just the one picture that says it all. I mean, that there was a clean clock right there to the jaw. Yeah, you can't get enough of it.
Nope.
Third, to me, I feel like I think it's a toss-up, because honestly, I feel like we're going to have a tie between second with the Angels and the A's. The only reason that I say this with the Angels is because, first and foremost, you've got, outside of Shohei Ohtani, you're trusting Julio Teheran, Dylan Bundy, and a couple of guys on the rotation. They haven't had a solidified rotation in a while. And the other part of it is, I'm not sure what their bullpens really bring to the table. I already know what you're going to get from the offense. That's not my problem. Right. Because Anthony Rendon is capable of driving in runs. Mike Trout is Mike Trout. Shohei Ohtani can put on a show with the bat. I am not sold on Joe Adell, dude. Am I the only person who literally watches this guy, and after 2 errors, I'm like, nope, I'm done. Like you can't do the same thing twice in 1 year. You can't, because that's inexcusable. And listen, this is from one outfielder to another. That's inexcusable. I don't care what you do with your offense, but I'm just like, I'm not sold on him yet. I'm not quite sold on him.
Does that constitute as insanity?
It has to be, apparently. It really has to be. And then, of course, shout out to my newest member of our Spotlight Sports Network family, Jackson. Ursa. Love this boy.
Hey. Aww.
I'm telling you, man. Terrier mix.
Titan apparently doesn't like being in front of the camera for some strange ass reason, or he's afraid to jump over cords and stuff.
This one, he's an attention seeker, and he's like super chill. But yeah, I just feel like the Angels, to me, they're third. I mean, this is a lineup I know what I'm going to get from their offense. Jack. But at the same time, this rotation, this bullpen, I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting with them.
I don't know, man.
But to me,
I'm curious to see how Pujols finishes his career as an Angel this year. I'm really curious to see what type of numbers he puts up at the end of his career.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. I mean, to be totally honest, I'll be surprised if he does, but I don't think he will if he puts up numbers like how David Ortiz did in his final season. I mean, would we ever see something like that? I mean, David Ortiz was the healthiest he could ever be in. People literally joked around and thought, dude, this cannot be his final season. Look at his numbers. He's putting numbers up like this. That's like you're psyching yourself. You know, like it numbers itself would not lie. In the production that he had and how locked in he was, I've really found it hard to believe. But if Pujols puts up something similar to that nature, will he really retire? Or, you know, because that would be the serious question here if you're Albert Pujols, if you're the organization.
Hold that thought.
Yeah. But just on a quick note and everything else, but I just think personally, I mean, I would be surprised, but at the same time, happy for Albert Pujols if he puts up a season like that. But who knows how high those odds are. To me, I feel like the A's would be second in this, maybe fighting for first. We know the Astros have been taking a toll with the fact of George Springer being in Toronto now, but they still have the offensive production. But yeah, like I said, if Albert Pujols puts up a season like that, I don't know. I don't know if they would give him at least one more year or if he might sign elsewhere, or if it'll be just a retirement.
I don't think they're going to be numbers like Big Papi put up his last year. And God, I miss David Ortiz so much. He's definitely one of my favorite players. He was one of the happiest guys on the field. I remember I saw him play, and this is when Manny was still playing for the Red Sox. They were playing Tampa at the Trop, and I'll never forget when I saw David Ortiz try to steal third base. Hands down, the most funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, Lord. Between him and Adrian Beltre stealing third. I mean, Beltre was literally high knees walking all the way up over there to third base, and Dave Roberts just going over there like,
thinking?
He'll just throw his hands up and just go like, what the hell? We'll just give up third base that easily then. But I still remember the iconic fight between him and Kevin Gregg. Oh God. That was one where I was just like, oh yeah, he's putting the gloves down. It's time to fight and and all that. That was literally the funniest. That was the funniest moment I'd seen out of David Ortiz, was right there in that one. That, and aside from bashing the call box, oh God. It's like, well, I cannot call the bullpen now, unfortunately. I might have to shoot him a text somehow, because yeah, our call box is broke now. But yeah, number 2 for me would probably be the Angels in this division, for one, because they did let go of a couple of players. Marcus Semien, we know, signing a 1-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. I never understood that signing. knowing that you have Bo Bichette as your everyday shortstop, but worst comes to shove, if he's putting up the production, I guess it really doesn't matter.
Got to be a method to the madness.
Of course. But I'm interested to see how Pete Kozma, for one, who's really been the highlight of the spring for the A's, Mitch Moreland, and also, too, AJ Puck was making his spring debut as well. So I'm loving to see how the youngsters, AJ Puck, Jesus Luzardo, and a couple of these guys in the youngsters of this rotation. It'll be fun to watch, but will it be impactful enough for this A's team to really kind of make a run? That's questionable. It's still in the air. But I feel like that will be something that the A's might be second in this division. But knowing that you're going to have a healthy Matt Chapman and a Matt Olson back, it's going to make you feel good being an A's fan. So,
yeah. They're a wild card team. And no disrespect at all, but I think they will be probably the first wild card team this season.
I feel it too. I mean, they always find their way into the wild card, and then they get the streak going, and so that's always the kind of the given for the A's. I feel like the Astros, they may be going for first. They might actually get fought for first between them and the A's, depending on how far the stretch is. But we know the Astros, they still have Zach Greinke, Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Yordan Alvarez. They still have bats. They still have pitching. It's unfortunate with it, but I'd like to see how this lineup gels without George Springer. Is Gaylord Perry still considered the sneakiest cheat? Oh, God. Gaylord Perry, of all people. Still?
He really went there.
Yeah, he really went there. He really went there. And Gaylord Perry, by the way, who was a Cy Young pitcher, yeah, he really went there with that. But I do feel like this West is going to be very interesting. There's a lot to really fight for. But I just think it's anybody's division. I really feel like it's anybody's division outside of the Angels. It's really anybody's division at this point, but it's outside of the Angels, outside of the Mariners. We'll see. We'll see how this, because they don't call it a Wild West for nothing.
Right.
But by the way, we had reports earlier. Steph Curry had left the game against the Rockets due to an awkward fall, for those of you, the basketball fans up out there. So we'll have more reports on the Spotlight Sports Network, figuring out what the injury is and hoping that he'll be all right. But
my son, that's my son. Is he okay?
Right.
Team light skin all day.
So looking at, seriously, I didn't know that. I'm looking up some scores right now because we are looking at some of the spring training scores. Maikel Franco is an Oriole. I didn't even realize he was a Baltimore Oriole, dude.
Did he get did he sign, or did he get a spring training invite?
Either invited or signed, whatever the hell happened. I don't know.
Did he fall asleep and did he just show up without an invite and they put him out and they saw him run or something? What's good?
Yeah, what's goody?
Willie Mays Hayes style?
Apparently so. Braves against the Orioles here as we look at some of these scores. Top of the fourth inning, Ozzie Albies off of John Means. Homers this ball to left. That's gone. Atlanta gets things started in 1-0. Good to see Ozzie Albies up in stride and up in form as we're getting ready for the season to go to kick around. Bottom of the fifth inning, Cedric Mullins hits this one into center field. Christian Pache will end up catching this one, and Austin Hayes will score on a sac fly. It's tied up with Sean Newcomb, who had a pretty good start to this spring training for him. So it'll be some interesting and promising stuff for the Atlanta Braves. We covered them before as one of our spring training spotlighted teams, but good stuff from him. Bottom of the sixth inning, Rio Ruiz, ground rule double into left center field. Ryan Mountcastle ends up scoring. It's 2-1 for Baltimore, and they would extend their lead. Austin Hayes doubling on a sharp ground ball to left field to enter Inciarte. Ruiz and Ramon Urias score with Austin Hayes getting there to third. Later on, a pass ball from Alex Jackson. Taryn Varvra scores, and it's 5-1, and that'll end 5-2 as Baltimore ends up taking this one 5-2 against the Atlanta Braves. Braves keeping themselves 8-8 for this spring training, while the Orioles figuring some stuff out at 5-11. What's going on? Oh, Lord, there he is. What's going on, Bobby of Beantown Breakdown? Shout out to him. Boston Red Sox, the New England Patriots, Boston Celtics, and, of course, Boston Bruins. Screw you and your New England Patriots, damn it.
Like, what's up, Beantown? He was in the live we did earlier with free agency and talking about the Raiders. Definitely welcome back in.
Oh, man, he's the best. He's absolutely the best, man. Glad to have Bobby up in here. Astros against the Cardinals here. So, you know what's interesting? I didn't realize this, but the Astros are 3-9 this spring training. Something is not clicking. I know it's spring training, but it's not clicking here. But we'll find out what happened here. But Yordan Alvarez in the bottom of the fourth inning singles a line drive to right field. Dylan Carlson, Jose Altuve scores as Adam Wainwright again back for another season with the St. Louis Cardinals. Interesting here to see exactly. I mean, Yadi Molina, I've been seeing him in the last couple of spring training games. He's still got that sling, man. He still has that behind the plate. So exciting to watch, but seeing him and Adam Wainwright back, both the duos. And then bottom of the fifth inning here for the Astros, after Yordan Alvarez having that single, but really quick, actually, top of the first inning. I can't even believe I forgot about that. Top of the first inning, Paul Goldschmidt. He's ready for the season as he hits this one deep to left center field. That's gone off of Brian Abreu and a 2-run home run, the first home run of the spring for Paul Goldschmidt, and hoping to get things going here before the season starts. And then later on in the bottom of the fifth inning, after trailing 2-1, Jose Altuve, his first home run of the spring. It's tied up 2-2 after a line drive home run to left field off of Adam Wainwright. Astros tie this up. Question for you, Jake. You going to be mad when Henry hoists the Lombardi Trophy this year? Oh, no, you did not go there. You did not go there. You did not go there, Hammer. I don't think I saw that. Did you mute yourself? Nope, I can't hear you. We're gonna figure this out. We are gonna figure this technical stuff out. But oh God, Bobby, you did not have to go there, dude. Nope, nothing. Hold on. Right. Nope, nothing. I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened here. That's really odd. Well, while we're figuring out all the technical difficulties going through from the game, Abraham Toro in the bottom of 6. There he is.
Chuck did rain.
I don't know what happened there.
There we go.
Oh, God, you'll be my first stop when it happens. Stop that, Bobby. Stop it.
I said it in my IG post the other day, and I put a whole bunch of these guys that just recently signed. Like, something's brewing in New England, and it definitely ain't Duncan or Sam Adams right now.
Sure as hell ain't Boston baked beans, I'll tell you that.
Belichick's got a plan right now, man.
God. It's the usual, man. It's the friggin' usual Boston thing. That's why I'm just like, the Red Sox, do they even have anything brewing? I don't even know if they do.
Yeah,
Bruins are they're in rebuild. But the Bruins are still, keeping themselves afloat. I just found out about the Islanders, honestly, that Anders Lee is out for the rest of the season. Torn ACL. Terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, throughout the rest of this game, Taylor Jones ties this thing up for the Astros, and it became 4-4 on the tie for the rest of the spring game. So Unfortunately, we couldn't find a winner or loser at all. So they tied up 4-4 between the Cardinals and Astros. Giants, speaking of them, Giants and the Rockies taking on here in the spring. Top of the first inning, Alex Dickerson singles in a line drive to right field to Charlie Blackmon. Lamonte Wade ends up scoring with Kirk Casale going to third, and then later on a sac fly from Jason Vossler right into center field. Casale will score. It's 2-0 San Francisco. Bottom of the second, Josh Fuentes a single on a ground ball to left fielder Steven Duggar. Blackmon scores. Crone goes to third, and Hilliard will go to second. And a walk for Dom Nunez. CJ Crone scores. It's tied up 2-2. And then Raimel Tapia flies out to left, and Hilliard will score a sac fly. Colorado takes the lead 3-2. Top of the fourth, Austin Slater doubles a fly ball into right field. Jason Kreizan ends up scoring. It's now 3-3. Bottom of the fifth inning, Blackmon singles and scores in Ryan McMahon. It's 4-3. Colorado takes the lead again. Top of the sixth inning, Will Wilson singles on a ground ball to left field. Vossler scores, and now we're tied up again. And then with a runner on, Jason Kreizan hits this one into right field, and it gets over, and it's gone. And Will Wilson, a 2-run home run for Kreizan. It's 6-4, San Francisco. Then Chadwick Trump, base hit in the left field, scores in Jalen Davis. It's now 7-4. And then the word that nobody likes to hear, but Greg Bird in the bottom of the sixth inning singles on a ground ball to right field. Dom Nunez scores. It's now 7-5 as they trail by 2. So Bird apparently seems to be the word in Colorado, but nobody's really chirping this thing out there. That ain't quite the story. But speaking of the story, Trevor Story singles a ground ball to second to Arizmendi Alcantara. Tapia scores. Jameson Hanna to third, and a throwing error by Alcantara. It's now 7-6. Alcantara, top of the seventh inning, walks and scores in Darren Ruff. It now becomes an 8-6 ball game. And fast forwarding all the way down, top of the eighth inning, 10-7 San Francisco. Alex Dickerson homers this thing to center field. And at the end of this game, making it 11-7, it becomes 11-8. Giants end up taking this game against the Rockies to remain neutral at 7-7, while the Rockies are 8-8. People still drink that. Oh my God. Ultra Boston mode activated.
Cincy, what up?
What's going on, Cincy? What's happening?
Holy shit.
Dodgers against the White Sox here. And Walker Buehler, by the way, on 4 innings of frame after being 0-1 in the spring training start at a 6.75 ERA. Buehler here gets Tim Anderson and swings and misses, strikes him out in the top of the first inning. Buehler looked really good on 4 innings of frame. Really got him with that sharp curveball just dropping down. Anderson was not prepared for that one. Then Eloy Jimenez punched out right on the corner. Good pitch to get the first inning out of the way. And, of course, everybody wearing their lucky green caps for St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way, everybody. Hoping everybody's feeling lucky.
That explains the 4 shots of Fireball.
Yep, it does. It really, really does. Hey, I got my bottle of Proper 12, though, in my fridge. That's the only 12. Proper number 12. Like, I
think I broke Jake. Hold it together, Jake.
Hey, I'm trying to hold it together, damn it. But later on here in this game, Will Smith, by the way, keeping it fresh, keeping it funky, and, of course, always getting jiggy with it here in the spring. On an 0-1 pitch from Lucas Giolito, Will Smith drives this thing to left field, and that one is gone. It's over the head of Eloy Jimenez and ties the game up after Chicago went up 1-0 here in the game. And then later on in the top of the third, Austin Barnes doubles a sharp line drive to left. Gavin Lux scores. It's 2-1 Dodgers. Ryan Noda in the top of the eighth inning was hit by a pitch. Andy Burns will end up scoring. It's 3-1. Then Rangel Ravello scores on a bit or gets a base hit in the left field. Omar Esteves scores. 4-1 Dodgers. Bottom of the ninth inning, Matt Reynolds hits a home run to right center field. That's gone. His second home run of the spring. And just for as much of a close game it was 4-3. Dodgers end up beating the White Sox here, improving themselves to 9-5. But the White Sox find themselves short in the spring, 4-9. By the way, Yankees right now are 12-4 in the spring training as they take on the Toronto Blue Jays. But the only score that we really have was the Gleyber Torres ground out softly to Tommy Malone and scoring in Aaron Judge. That's about it. So the Yankees end up winning this game 1-0. Mets at the Marlins here in this one. Joey Lucchesi K's 4 in 3 innings of frame. Good job from him in the pitching rotation. Bottom of the fifth inning, Jazz Chisholm hits this one into right field, gets Miami on the board. It's 1-0 on a big-time home run, his second of the spring off of Robert Zellman. And so it's 1-0 Miami. Then later on, Albert Almora, the former Cub, doubles this one into right field. Conforto and Pete Crow Armstrong score. It's 2-1 Mets. Then later on in the bottom of the ninth inning to really walk this thing off, Joe Dunad homers this thing to left field, and that you could kiss it goodbye, call it a ball game. 3-2. Miami wins this one, walking it off on a 2-run home run, and the Miami Marlins are victorious here as they improved to 8-2 of the spring. Surprising about them, really, this spring training, but we have yet to see what the rest of the season folds for them.
I'm telling y'all, spring training. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, like I said, man. But at least it's good to see, Albert Almora really fitting in beautifully for the Mets.
He's doing well. He's doing very well. Collectively, they're not looking too bad. But again, it's spring training. These dudes are just getting themselves prepared for the regular season, which starts in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, I'm not
just about 2-3 weeks.
Concerned right now. Like, I watched what was it? I think it was Saturday or Sunday. I was driving. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. I was driving around doing errands and stuff and watching the game. Yes, I had the game on in my car, but I was watching their game against St. Louis. And you were talking about Yadier Molina before. Man, that dude to this day still scares me. Like,
oh, dude, still.
Holy shit.
He still freaking scares me to this day. Good God. Like, yeah, I'd like to see what this next year is going to bring for the Cardinals, to be honest. But it's going to be some pretty good, promising stuff. Tigers at the Phillies. And by the way, your former Met pitcher, Zach Wheeler, looked really tough in his start against the Tigers, getting Wilson Ramos there, swinging and missing on that beautiful breaker. Oh, what a pitch. Yeah, what a pitch.
That's funny.
Later on, Nomar Mazara swinging and missing as he strikes out. And it was actually a really, really good start for Zach Wheeler in this one. Gets the second K through 5 innings of work from here. Wasn't quite done yet. Ramos again punching him out clearly right down the pipe. I am really surprised they don't decide to swing on that. If you got one down the pipe, go for it. Swing it, damn it. But yeah, that thing was right there down the pipe. I really don't understand that, why guys don't really swing at pitches like that. But Zach Wheeler again gets his 4th strikeouts of 4 Ks in 5 innings of work. He's looked really, really impressive here in his start against Detroit. But one stop there, as here in the bottom of the 4th inning with nobody out, Odubel Herrera got into this one, flip it and everything. That's out of here. That's annihilated. Odubel Herrera hits a home run and gets the Phillies on the board 1-0. Then Ronald Torreyes doubles into left field, and Derek Hall scores. And so Philadelphia wins this one 2-0 with a strong start from Zach Wheeler. And of course, the bat flipping everything from Odubel Herrera. You ever notice that with him? every time he gets into one, it's simple, the bat flip and everything else. Like, he did it all. I don't know if you saw that video,
I'm gonna
but
take a look at it later.
oh my God, it's like he literally just pimped this thing out.
I would do the same thing.
Yeah. Twins and Red Sox here. So looking at it, bottom of the second inning, Bobby Dahlbeck way out of here off of Matt Shoemaker, the former Angel, Blue Jay, and of course of other teams that he's been a part of. Hits this thing to left field, and it's a grand slam for him, for Bobby Dahlbeck. 4-0 Boston. They get that party started. It must be luck of the Irish apparently in Boston right now, because they're really feeling it. Patriots are making some moves, and the Red Sox, well, they'll hit a grand slam to start that spring training game. Top of the third inning, grounding into a double play, Luis Arias ends up getting William Ostadito to score. JT Riddle goes over to second while Arias is out at first. So they get at least one run to come through. Then later on in the bottom of the third, Rafael Devers, looking to have a real good season this upcoming year, homers this thing to center field. Number 3 of spring training, as that scored in JD Martinez and Xander Bogaerts, a 3-run homer. Later on in the bottom of the fourth inning, JD Martinez hits this one to left field and gets a sac fly. Boston leads 8-1. And then finally, Josh Kimmy ends up hitting a base hit into right field. Michael Gady scores, and so Boston wins 9-1 and improved themselves to 9-6. Rays at the Pirates here in this one. Top of the first inning, Joey Wendell gets things going for the Rays, and he bumps this one into left center field. That's going to score in Austin Meadows. Manuel Margot ends up going to third. It's 1-0 Tampa Bay. Later on, top of the first inning, Mike Brasso singles a line drive to left field. Margot scores, and Wendell ends up over at third. It's 2-0. Then Francisco Mejia, the former Padre, hits a sac fly to center field. Wendell's will score, and so it's 3-0 Tampa Bay over Pittsburgh. Then finally, Brian Hayes, some promising stuff from him this up and coming year. Hits a base hit into right field. Adam Frazier scores. It's 3-1. Top of the second inning, Ryan Bolt squaring up at the plate. It's this ball high and deep into left center field, and that clears the wall. It's gone, and it's 4-1 Tampa on a solo home run from Ryan Bolt. Later on, Miles Mastrobuoni hits this one to left center field. Got no room behind the wall. It's gone, and so that's the second home run of the spring for Mastrobuoni. What a hit and what a shot. Tampa Bay extending their lead as Ryan Bolt doubles. It's now 6-1. Austin Meadows, he's been having a really good spring himself. Hits this one to right field. Get out of here. That one is gone. It's 8-1. Tampa Bay, Austin Meadows with his 4th home run of the spring. And finally, Brian Reynolds in the bottom of the third gets Pittsburgh back up on the board on a 2-run home run. It's 8-3 off of former Pirates prospect Tyler Glasnow. And so the Pirates are back up into this game. Then finally, at a 9-3 deficit, Colin Moran extends it, gets themselves close to within 4 on a 2-run home run, 9-5. Pittsburgh still trailing, but at the end of the game, Tampa Bay wins this one 10-9. It was a very, very close game. Pittsburgh tried to come back, but Tampa Bay sealed the deal, and they take the win. Current games going on, Angels beating the Seattle Mariners 6-0 as Franklin Barreto got a solo home run. Then Joe Adele with an RBI single, Jared Walsh with an RBI single himself. Angels are up 6-0 against the Mariners. Then the D-backs at the Rangers. Rangers are up 3-0 so far as Nick Solak on a 2-0 lead. Homers to right field with his 3rd of the spring. So the Rangers are up 3-0. Padres at Cubs. Cubs leading this one 5-2. Wilson Contreras with a 3-run home run. And Cubs are taking a commanding lead from here. Then the Indians and the Reds, of course, the old Ohio battle from here. Mike Freeman with a big-time solo home run. Then Nick Castellanos settling himself in. Of course, they're wearing their greens for Cincinnati. Castillo, Freeman, and then later on down the stretch, it's now 9-0 Cincinnati. Royals at the A's here in this one. The A's were kind of finding themselves in a jam. Ryan McBroom, 2-run home run. Kansas City's up 2-0. Bottom of the second inning, Chad Pinder singles on a ground ball to left. Jed Lowry scores, and it's 2-1. Ryan McBroom again hits this one to center field, gets a sac fly. Michael A. Taylor, the newly acquired Royal, ends up scoring here 3-1 Kansas City. Bottom of the fourth inning, some promising stuff for Stephen Piscotty for this next up-and-coming season. Singles this one to left field, scores in Jed Lowry. It's 3-2. Then things started to open up for the A's. Aramis Garcia doubles and scores in Piscotty. Pinder goes to third. It's tied 3-3. Then Kai Tom ends up hitting a ground rule double to left field line, scores in Pinder and Aramis Garcia. It's 5-3. And then finally a runner out. Tom was out on that throw from second base. And so it's 6-3. Top of the fifth inning, Hunter Dozier hits this one into left field, and that ball is gone. 6-5 as they get themselves closer to within one. Bottom of the fifth inning, Matt Olson. He's definitely in season form as he hits this one to left center field. That is number 4 of the spring for Olson, and he can't wait for the season to start up. 7-5 Oakland. Bottom 6, Aramis Garcia, who doubled last time, doubles again in the left field, scores in Pete Cosma. It's 8-5. And then all the way down to Seth Brown in the bottom of the sixth inning, and the end of it, 10-6, Oakland wins this game against the Kansas City Royals. So that's so far all of the spring training games from here. So that takes us to our spotlighted team, of course, that we talked about earlier. We already covered the Baltimore Orioles. Now we're getting into the Boston Red Sox. So a team that took an initial step back last season, of course, losing Alex Cora due to the allegations of the cheating scandal with the Houston Astros, who was a part of that team in 2017. They were without their manager. Things were not looking good for the Boston Red Sox. It just seemed like it's always the golden rule. If you're not first, you're last. And if you're not last, you're first. That's always been the initial rule for the Red Sox, but it didn't really look good for them. And looking through this roster, I mean, they still have some real good arms on them. They're hoping for at least a good comeback from Chris Sale this next year, but he's out. He's out now for the rest of the year. And so they have to have some other guys to really kind of step up and really just get this rotation going. They still have some good pieces. Matt Barnes, Matt Andriese, Nathan Eovaldi, Martin Perez, and Eduardo Rodriguez. But from the looks of it, it's going to be a young rotation for the Boston Red Sox moving into 2021.
You're looking at Nathan Eovaldi as the number 1 starter for the Red Sox this coming season with the loss of Chris Sale. You have Eduardo Rodriguez, Garrett Richards, Martin Perez, and Nick Pivetta. It sucks because he definitely was, and I'm talking about Sale right now, he was definitely someone to look out for this coming season. And now with the loss of him, it's like, what does that mean for the rest of that pitching rotation? Like, every man is going to have to step up now. Yeah.
Every single one of them are going to have to step up at this point, and now they're going to have to really kind of fulfill themselves if they really, if they really want to be competitive in the AL East. I mean, you're looking at the Toronto Blue Jays that have bolstered themselves up. The Yankees, we'll see exactly how they finish up. I mean, Baltimore, you already know, is rebuilding, and then you have Tampa Bay, who was just in the World Series this past year. It's going to be really interesting to see what Boston does for this next year, but ultimately, when you look at just the depth chart from top to bottom, I mean, this rotation, it's young and it's only going to get better from here, but you still have some veteran arms with Eovaldi and Garrett Richards and Martin Perez, but really how good of quality can they really pitch in these rotation spots? I mean, that's the real question.
I honestly think even with like their projected lineup as well, which I'm going to throw on the ticker in a second, I think the Red Sox are going to end up being 4th place in that division. And honestly, at this point, with everything I've been seeing so far out of the Yankees and things I've been hearing, I think that the Yankees can win this division, believe it or not. But
Wow.
we just have to wait and see how it plays out. But here at the bottom of the screen is a projected lineup for the Red Sox going into this season. I don't know. I'm skeptical, but I don't see them really competing. I see them as a team that's in rebuild mode, and we just have to. We've talked about it before we even covered them. I said give it 2 to 3 years before we really start seeing something out of them again.
You know what's interesting, because when I look at this lineup for the Red Sox, as we're reading it here on the bottom, but first of all, Alex Verdugo. I mean, this is a young kid. He's still getting into the heap of things, and a guy that they had acquired out of that trade from the LA Dodgers and getting Mookie Betts. I mean, it's going to be a guy that I think has a real good, promising future for Boston, but this is going to be a completely different outfield now without Benintendi, Mookie Betts, and of course Jackie Bradley Jr., who's on his way to Milwaukee. I mean, this is going to be quite an interesting story for them, but Verdugo being the everyday center fielder in left field, you got Hunter Renfroe, who they just picked up on a small contract after he was released from Tampa Bay, designated for assignment. I thought that was surprising, but at the same time, you're going to get a power bat in that lineup, but they already have a power bat that can literally do everything with JD Martinez. It'll be quite the interesting surprise from there. Franchi Cordero, Marwin Gonzalez there for left field, but initially, the guy you're going to hope, well, I guess the two you're really going to hope that are going to be productive is Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers. Am I wrong? These are two guys that I think Rafael Devers is bound to have at least a real good season, but Xander Bogaerts, he's really stepped up his production in the last couple of seasons for Boston. But to see how this next year will flow with Verdugo, Bogaerts, Devers, and Martinez, Christian Vasquez and Renfroe, you could probably flip-flop if you really want to, but I think the guy that's going to be really interesting, I'm surprised he's not even up in this lineup right now, is Michael Chavis. I mean, the guy that I think Chavis might have, I think he's going to be very valuable for Boston this next season, because this is a guy with Dustin Pedroia retired. He's going to be one that I think is going to get a lot more reps, a lot more cuts, and he's going to have some really good production for Boston if they're really going to start to step their game up in their lineup and even in the rotation. You muted yourself.
I think Chavis is going to benefit coming off the bench as a utility guy. Like, he plays first, he plays second, he plays outfield. Numbers aren't too bad, but the guys that they have, I'm looking at right now, if I can get back to it, the guys that they have in their lineup right now are not bad, especially with the first three, starting with Verdugo, 287 average, 347 on base percentage, 450 slugging, 797 OPS. You got Bogaerts, 290, 363, 506, 869. Devers, 280, 335. 512, 847. Like, these guys can hit. That's the thing. And like, they're projected to finish fourth in the division. Like, I think it's going to be questionable to even go by what I'm looking at right now, for the simple fact that Alex Cora is now back as that manager.
Yeah.
Alex Cora took him to the playoffs before. It's going to be tough. I think the four main teams in that division are going to battle. Who's not to say that they're going to finish fourth in the division, but I think it's going to be a very interesting season for them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a very interesting season for them indeed. But I like I said, I mean, I think for some of these guys with their offensive productions, I mean, Xander Bogaerts, as we mentioned, I see him being at least the initial catalyst, getting things going for the Red Sox. I mean, last year when we looked at some of these stats in the short season, out of the 7 games he's played, didn't really have any doubles, had at least an RBI. So it's been kind of hard with that kind of position. But, at the same time, am I really looking at this? What the hell? Like, am I really looking at this right? No, I'm looking at this. We're not looking at spring training here. Looking at basically the season. There we go. All right, there we go. That's better. But yeah, in 2020, he had 56 games that he played, hit at least 61 times, had 8 doubles and 11 home runs with 28 runs batted in, and at least batted 300. So he's really been, and this is the funny thing, in the last couple seasons from 2020 dating all the way to 2017, notice a hot trend here, at least from 273, 288, 309, and 300. Batting 309 in 2019, where he had 33 home runs, 117 RBIs. That's impressive. That's pretty impressive, even for a guy in his position that we know now. I mean, they're on the radar. They're on the radar for, for shortstops that are very, very productive. But I've really been liking, I've liked what I've seen so far with numbers like that. And then for JD Martinez to at least have somewhat of a bounce back season than what he had this previous year. I mean, going from 304 in a regular season in 2019, 33, 36 home runs, and then dropping from 7 to have at least batting 213. That's rough. That is rough. I did not expect that out of him.
I've said it over and over again with the pandemic and everything and the shortened season. A lot of these guys were not in their regular routines, and it messed a lot of people up. And honestly, I kind of just bypass a lot of the numbers that I saw last season from players just because of everything was thrown off for everybody. And I don't think it's fair. Like, people talking about these players and what they did last year with such a short season, like just criticizing them over and over again. Like, you guys weren't there playing 60 games. You guys weren't like trying to adapt and trying to perform at your best. Like, I'm just so over it. And I'm glad now we're getting a full season. We can truly see everybody at their full momentum and just see how they go throughout this coming season.
That's true. And I'd like to see that too. I mean, in a full season now, it's quite an interesting rookie season for one, but I think Bobby Dalbec will be one guy that I think could really be a real good catalyst in this lineup. For one, looking at his stats from 2020 alone, even in a short season, in the 23 games he's played, has 21 hits, 48 total bases, 3 doubles, also had 8 home runs and 16 RBIs to his credit, batting 263. It seems like a guy that if you put him in a full season, looks like he could be a guy that's promising, that I think we might see maybe 25, if not 30 home runs out of him. But he's a guy that could purely be locked in, a guy that can hit, a guy that can try to score in and drive runs. So Bobby Dalbec might be somebody that is going to be interesting. Now, it'll be kind of challenging for one, because knowing he's playing third base, he could be swapping for first base as well. First base is up for grabs. But then you're talking about, the open spots with first and second with Michael Chavis, Enrique Hernandez, and a couple others in the middle of this. And then not to mention Marwin Gonzalez. So you plug him into the middle of this. So it'll be kind of interesting. But of course, too, I mean, can't really get too much into the catcher depth. Christian Vasquez is the everyday starter, and then your former Met, Kevin Plawecki, who's only going in there as just for utility.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I think you're about right. I think the Red Sox could be a team that could be projected fourth, but they could make an initial jump if things click at the right time.
Right.
It could be fighting for third or second in the in this division, because it's only going to determine whether or not how they're really going to roll with this, because the Blue Jays are getting better. The Tampa Bay Rays that were just fresh from a World Series. Now, I don't know how they're really going to perform. I do think there are some breakout stars like Mike Brasso, Randy Arozarena, Tyler Glasnow, and a couple others. But then, of course, you got the health of the Yankees, and this is important for them. I'm surprised that they're even 12-4 right now. The fact that injury after injury after injury, and then, of course, having their manager out with a pacemaker, like.
Well, he was only out for like 3 days though, and then he came back. So isn't
that interesting though? Because it's just like, what more has to happen in the Bronx?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but I think to me, I think you'd be absolutely right. I think the projections kind of do have this right, but again, if this lineup really flows and this rotation pitches quality, then who knows? Maybe the Red Sox might surprise us. If the Patriots are surprising us right now, who knows? Maybe the Red Sox might surprise us too.
Hope not, but we'll see.
Lord, I hope not either, but that'll be interesting to see. But ultimately, I mean, I look at this, I mean, it's a good episode, man. Do we have any thoughts as far as, what we might put onto the grill? Because honestly, I mean, the A's right now, they haven't even announced their starter just yet. I feel like it might be Mike Fiers. I feel like Fiers is going to be the number one rotation guy because they're going to need some young guys to really kind of step up and everything else. Jesus Luzardo is getting his cuts as a starter. And then I think AJ Puck, I'd much rather keep him on the bullpen because that's a guy that's got a really good arm. They still do have Jake Diekman, which I'm very happy of because they need at least a good solid rotation or a solid bullpen guy, but nothing quite yet for what's been happening with the A's so far.
I don't think there's anybody at this point to put on the grill.
But I will say this. I did watch a highlight of Francisco Lindor just getting into one on the left side of the plate. And, man, was that a beauty to watch.
Just give him his extension. Just give him his extension, please. Like, I talked about this the other day. And
I mean, the Dodgers did this with Mookie Betts.
Yeah, but I also remember what the Mets did when they traded for Piazza. They traded for him in May of 1998 and went through the whole season. And that October is when he got his extension, and it was a 7-year, $91 million deal. Now, obviously, I'm not saying to offer him that much money. Times have totally changed. That was ages ago now at this point. I was, 12? So we're not doing that. I'm not dating how old I am, but I figure you give him a 7-8 year deal around the ballpark of somewhere over 300 because I don't think he's going to take anything less.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, ultimately, it looks like he's fitting in well with the Mets, and it seems like, the lineup and, the rest of them, they're going to be ready to be geared up for 2021 season. But the fact that Jacob deGrom, once again, is the opening day starter, and so it's all going to flow from him, and now we'll actually see exactly how this rotation is really going to work out with, with Carlos Carrasco and the rest of them. So
we just need them to put up runs when DeGrom is out there starting. We need.
Oh, that's crucial. I remember that year when they were lacking offense, but yet had quality pitching. That had to be excruciating to watch, right? It made you want to pick up your bat and go like, listen, this is offense. This is offense. Put up runs, damn it.
Like, I really hope that this year he gets as much run support as possible, and potentially we see him as like a 20 win pitcher. Like, I'm dying to see that for once for him. Like, he just needs that run support, and he needs his bullpen to come through for him as well if the situations are that tight. But I want to see him succeed and get the run support that he deserves this coming season.
Absolutely. I don't blame you there. Hopefully hopefully, like I said, I mean, this will be some good stuff for the Mets moving forward in the NL East and making this a competitive division for sure. But so far, I've gotten all my thoughts together. Don't really have anybody worth putting up onto the grill either. I just think you and I are just ready for this season to really just start at this point. Like, let's just start this up, get baseball back so we can be excited again. And yeah, that's just about it. But I really do appreciate everybody who joined on in. We shout all of you guys out, all of our faithful subscribers up out there, and of course, all of our fans on the live chats. We really do appreciate you guys jumping on by here for the Turn 2 podcast. As of course, next week's spotlighted team, we're going down over into Illinois, into Chicago, but we'll be talking more about the Chicago Cubs. Is Chris Bryant going to still be a Cub? That is yet to be answered because this has been an ongoing and lingering question now for a while. And can the Cubs really, really compete I mean, the NL Central, the Cardinals are getting serious. The Brewers, I don't know what the deal is, but they could be a team that could be competitive if everything works right. The Cincinnati Reds, they are, to me, a wild card team in that division alone because Sonny Gray could be coming out and pitching really well. Now they're without Trevor Bauer, but they do have some good offensive guys. And the rest of the division. So there's a lot of questions to be answered about the Cubs, but they're still hanging on to guys like Anthony Rizzo, Wilson Contreras, Ian Happ. So whatever the case may be, I've said this before to one of our colleagues. I feel like the Cubs are doing exactly like the Blackhawks are doing. I really think so. I really think that this is exactly what this is happening. Like this is going on. So it'll be interesting. So yeah, answers are left to be said for the Cubs for this next season. But thank you guys all for joining us here on the Turn 2 podcast on the Spotlight Sports Network with myself, Jake the Snake Silva, and of course, the one and only Hammer of Hammer's House, Jeff Hammond. We will see you guys next week. And by the way, this is actually vacation time for me, man. I cannot wait to be hitting up those mountains up in Utah. And of course, taking on my partner in crime, Jackson. It'll be the first time he'll be out. So thank you guys so much for joining us here. We hope you guys have a great night, and we will see you guys next week on this next edition of the Turn 2 podcast. Have a good night. Take care.
Later, guys.